The second one is, how can we believe in an Imam, in Sahib al-Zaman alayhi salam, when supposedly he has been living for over 1,000 years? This is also an important question. Because some might find the long life of Imam al-Mahdi to be quite far-fetched. You know, some might tell you, really? You want to tell me there's a man who has been alive for more than a millennium, more than 1,000 years? You have to be kidding me, right? The shubha, the fallacy, seems somewhat strong at first glance, but once you hear the answer, you'll see that the fallacy is quite weak. The fallacy is quite weak, and there's nothing far-fetched in, believing that the Imam alayhi salam has been living for over a millennium. There's nothing illogical in saying so or believing in this specific belief. Imam al-Mahdi was born in what year? Who can tell me? And no, we have not begun the trivia game yet. The Imam was born in which year? Come on, you have to know this. You don't know it? Ma'ule, Abdullah, save the day. Huh? Sure? You're close. 255. Okay, it's easy to memorize this number. 2 plus 5 plus 5 is what? 12. Jayyid. 5 plus 5 is 10 plus 2, 12. So 255. And he is the 12th Imam. So he was born on year 255 on the 15th of Sha'ban. Salawatullah wa salamu alayh. Today we're living which year? Year 1445 after Hijrah. So in 10 years, Sahib al-Zaman, salamullah alayh, would have been alive for 1,200 years. Jayyid. How can we accept this? Well, first of all, we have to remember that Sahib al-Zaman is supported by Allah. And Allah has unlimited power, correct? Quran says, Inna Allah ala kulli shay'in qadir. Surely Allah is able to do anything. If Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wishes for someone to live for centuries, that someone will live for centuries. If Allah wishes for someone to live for a day, He's going to live for a day. If Allah wishes for someone to live for millenniums, for over a millennium, He will live for over a millennium. The issue goes back to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. If we Shias said that Baqiyatullah alayhi salam lives on his own and continues to live for centuries and millenniums, then yes, someone will have the right to object. But we're not saying that he himself is prolonging his life on his own. We're saying Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is backing the Imam, is supporting the Imam and prolonging his life. So when we remember this issue, the fallacy is completely obliterated, especially if we remember that, and I hope you're focused with me, there were people in the past, and there are people in the present who have lived for centuries or over a millennium. Jayyid. We have individuals, or say people, right now who have been alive for centuries. In fact, they've been alive for thousands of years. The same way these people have been given permission by Allah Azza wa Jal to have long lives, the same way Allah Azza wa Jal gave these people long lives, He gave Sahib al-Zaman, Ajjar Allah Ta'ala Faraja, a long life. Who are these people? Let's start with the past. We've all heard of Nabiullah Nuh alayhi salam. Nuh lived for how long? A dash 900? Do we have another guess? Above the thousands? Jayyid, Abdullah? Ahsantum, we're getting closer. Many people think that Nuh lived for 900 years. Sahih? The reality is he spent 950 years amongst his people. So that was the amount of time in which Nuh alayhi salam was basically amongst his people delivering the message of God subhanahu wa ta'ala. So he lived for 950 years amongst his people. But in reality, he lived for more than 1,000 years. Traditions tell us that he lived for 2,500 years. 25 centuries. Who gave Nuh alayhi salam that long lifespan? Allah. It's the same Allah, the same God who gives Sahib al-Zaman alayhi salam his long lifespan. This is an example pertaining to what? Pertaining to the past. Meaning pertaining to a person who lived but then passed away. Another example is Salman. Salman al-Muhammadi rahmatullah alayh, they say kana min al-muhammirin. Meaning Salman had a long lifespan. He lived for centuries, not just decades. He was an old man. By the time he met Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alayhi, Salman was quite old. Who gave him that long life? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. As for those who live right now, individuals or people who live right now and have been living for hundreds, in fact thousands of years, these people we've heard of many times, but sometimes we forget that they've been living for so long. Let's start with a jinn. He's not a human, a jinn that Muslims and even, Jews and Christians believe in, and that is the shaitan, Iblis. We believe in what? In his presence, la'natullah alayh. The shaitan has been living since the days of Adam alayhi salam and continues to live. In fact, he was alive before Adam was created, before Adam's soul was connected to his body. So you mean to tell me that I can believe that an enemy of God can have a long lifespan and live for, thousands and thousands of years, yet the representative of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala cannot live for thousands and thousands of years? Here I'm not addressing you. I'm addressing those who scold us or criticize us for believing in the presence of Sahib al-Zaman, Ajjalallah Faraja. Do we have other examples? Yes. There are two individuals right now, holy individuals, who have also been living for a long time, and their age exceeds the age of Sahib al-Zaman. They're not more important than him. On the contrary, he's their leader. But these two are holy, and they're older than the Imam. Who can tell me who they are? Muhammad Ali. Bravo, ahsant. Salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Khidr, Nabi Isa alayhi salam. Isa, salamullah alayhi, if we suppose that Isa was born in year 0, if we suppose that he was born in what? Year 0. That would mean right now Isa is how old? 2024 years old. But what's mesmerizing is we and the Christians believe that Isa is alive. He's alive where? In the skies. The issue where we differ is the crucifixion. We differ with the Christians in regards to the crucifixion. They believe that Isa was crucified. We believe he wasn't. But we agree that Isa was what? Lifted to the sky. So right now Isa is alive. But he's where? Somewhere in the sky. He could be on a planet, in a galaxy, or, floating in mid-space. Wherever he may be, he's alive. Allah Ta'ala keeps him alive. And he will remain alive until he comes back to this world when Sahib al-Zaman rises and will pray behind Baqiyatullah Ajjalallah Ta'ala Farajahu Sharif. You can imagine the impact his prayer will have on humanity or on the Christians when he prays behind Sahib al-Zaman, salawatullah alayhima. So we believe Isa alayhi salam. When I say we, I'm talking about Muslims, not only Shias. We believe Isa is still alive. And he's been living for over 2,000 years or close to 2,000 years. Beautiful. So just as Allah Ta'ala gives Isa that long lifespan, he does the same with Sahib al-Zaman. As for Al-Khidr alayhi salam, he's been alive since the days of who? Musa alayhi salam. The least we can say is that he's been alive since the days of Musa. Possibly he was alive before then. I'm not exactly sure when he was born. But Al-Quran mentions a beautiful story pertaining to Musa and Khidr and what happened when they met, salamullahi alayhima. So he's been alive ever since the days of Musa, salamullahi alayh. And he continues to live. In fact, our traditions tell us that he keeps Sahib al-Zaman company during al-Ghayba, which means he's Sahib al-Zaman's companion. He's Sahib al-Zaman's friend. We envy Al-Khidr, salamullah alayh, in a positive manner, of course. We envy him, as he has the privilege of being with the Imam, Ajjalallah ta'ala farajahu al-Sharif. You know, Al-Khidr, the personality of Al-Khidr is really important. His presence confirms that there is nothing illogical in believing that Imam al-Mahdi alayhi salam continues to live, that Imam al-Mahdi has lived for centuries or over 1,000 years. And what's interesting is Muslims, Sunnis and Shias, both of them believe in Al-Khidr, salamullahi alayh. Yes, Ibn Taymiyyah negated the presence of Khidr. Why? Because he realized if we believe in Khidr, then the Shias will have a strong argument against us pertaining to Imam al-Mahdi, Ajjalallah farajahu al-Sharif. So he said, you know what? There's no such thing as Al-Khidr alayhi salam. But we tell Ibn Taymiyyah, when you did that, you only proved us right. Because the proofs indicate that Al-Khidr is present. And Sunnis and Shias believe in his presence, salamullah alayh. The only reason you're doing this is because you don't want to believe in the presence of an Imam who has been alive for over 1,000 years. Interestingly, the Imam al-Askari alayhi salam, Sahib al-Zaman's father, he told one of his noble companions that Sahib al-Zaman resembles Al-Khidr. Subhanallah. What did he say? Let me share the tradition with you. After a loud salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. So here in the book Kamal al-Din, also the same book, Kamal al-Din, also known as the Kamal al-Din for Shaykh al-Saduq rahmatullah alayh, there's a story, there's a narration that mentions a story pertaining to Imam al-Askari and his noble companion Ahmad ibn Ishaq al-Qummi. Ahmad rahmatullah alayh, he goes to the Imam to ask him about the next Imam, who is the successor of Imam al-Askari. So a long dialogue, or a lengthy dialogue, takes place between them, and in that dialogue, Imam al-Askari goes inside his house and comes out with a boy who has a beautiful face, a shining face, and shows that boy to Ahmad ibn Ishaq. And he tells him, had it not been for your honorable status in the eyes of Allah and the eyes of Ahl al-Bayt alayhim salam, I would not have shown you my son. He shows him Imam al-Mahdi, and he tells him that this is your Imam after me. So when he shows him Imam al-Mahdi, and Imam al-Mahdi ends up speaking with Ahmad ibn Ishaq, during that dialogue, Imam al-Askari says, as he describes his son, listen carefully, Ya Ahmad ibn Ishaq, مثله في هذه الأمة مثل الخضر عليه السلام ومثله مثل ذي القرنين. So he tells him that as Imam al-Mahdi dwells amongst the nation, he will resemble al-Khidr and will also resemble Dhil Qarnayn, Salamullahi alayhima. What similarity does he share with those two personalities? Soon you will hear, inshallah. Then Imam al-Askari says a very important word. Wallahi, لَيَغِيبَنَّ غَيْبَةً لا ينجو فيها من الهلكة إلا من ثبته الله عز وجل على القول بإمامته. I want you to focus on this word because we will need it as we tackle the third question. He says, I swear by Allah, Sahib al-Zaman will go through a state of occultation. And during that occultation, everyone will be doomed. No one will be saved. No one? Even us? He says, illa, except. There's an exception. من ثبته الله عز وجل على القول بإمامته. Except for those who are aided by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. They're aided by God, they're given tawfiq. To continue believing in Imam al-Mahdi alayhi salam. وَوَفَّقَهُ فِيهَا لِلدُّعَاءِ بِتَعْجِيلِ فَرَجِهِ. And those who are also given tawfiq, given godly aid, given help from Allah Azza wa Jal, to supplicate and ask Allah to hasten the salvation of the Imam alayhi salam, meaning to hasten his reappearance. I want you to keep this word in mind because we're going to need it when we tackle the third question. So now what do we understand? Al-Askari said what? He said, my son resembles who? Al-Khidr, and resembles Dhil Qarnayn. What similarity do they share? Ahmad bin Ishaq leaves after he rejoices. He sees the Imam, he speaks to his Imam, Baqiyatullah, Salamullahi alayh. The next day he comes back. And he tells the Imam al-Askari, he tells him, what is, this similarity that Sahib al-Zaman shares with al-Khidr and with Dhil Qarnayn? He says, فَمَا السُنَّةِ الْجَارِيَةُ فِيهِ مِنَ الْخِضْرِ وَذِل Qarnayn. He tells him that, you told me that he resembles al-Khidr wa Dhil Qarnayn, which means that he will do something that they did, or something will happen to him that will have happened to Khidr and Dhil Qarnayn. What is that thing, Ya ibn Rasulullah? So he tells him, طُولُ الْغَيْبَةِ يَا أَحْمَدِ. He tells him he will go through a long occultation, which means that Al-Khidr also went through what? A long occultation. Al-Khidr doesn't only have a long life, he's also in ghaibah. Tell me, do you know where Al-Khidr is? Do you know where he is? The location? You don't. I don't know. Can we meet Al-Khidr alayhi salam whenever we want? We can't. So just as he has a long life, he's also in ghaibah. He's also in a state of occultation. Thus you can say, Al-Khidr is a sign that points to the existence of Al-Imam al-Mahdi, Ajjalallahu ta'ala Farajahu al-Sharif. He tells him Imam al-Mahdi will go through a long occultation. Salamullah alayh. So Ahmad says, قُلْتُ يَا ابْنَ رَسُولِ اللَّهِ وَإِنَّ غَيْبَتَهُ لَتَطُولُ. I told him, O grandson of Allah's messenger, Sahib al-Zaman will go through a long occultation. His occultation will be very long, will be quite lengthy. He told him, I wa Rabbi. Yes, I swear by my Lord. This is important. It's important to know that the Imams told us the occultation will be long. Lesh? Because up until now we've been waiting for about 1,200 years. How much longer do we have to wait? Allahu perhaps 10 years, perhaps one day, perhaps 1,000,000 years. We don't know. But we know what is our duty. What's our duty? To remain faithful in Sahib al-Zaman alayhi salam until our last breath. To continue following the path of Baqiyatullah and his forefathers until our last breath. That's our duty. To continue to await the Imam, salamullahi